What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Bianconeri Zone for another daily news show where we obviously are going to talk about Dusan Vlahovic because that is the biggest topic and it's not really going away. Apparently, there's a meeting at the beginning of next week with his agent to see what Vlahovic is up to, basically what his ideas. However, the media has been putting out there, Tuttosport, Giovanni Albanese, Sky Italia as well, saying that, man, in the worst case scenario, Juve might terminate his contract and pay him out to leave. I'm going to speak on why that will be a disaster for this club on different levels. There's an update, little update on Jadon Sancho, and something very interesting on Jonathan David as well. But before we get into it, as always, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's start off with the Vlahovic story because it's becoming very strange, because the latest, obviously, as you can see, is a contract termination, paying him his wages and a fee to leave. That's a disaster for a club for a very simple reason, because he has a value of around 20 million euros on the books. I thought it was a bit more, but apparently it's around 20 million euros. You cannot leave that on the books. It's impossible. I'm I'm not even saying, actually, yeah, you should be getting 20 million for Vlahovic. No matter what the situation, you should be getting 20 million for Vlahovic. He's having a poor season, but come on, I've seen worse going for much more, and I've seen players go for much more who have never reached a certain level like Vlahovic did at one point throughout his still very, early young career. But that being said, as a club, you need to find a solution for this. And maybe on Monday, when they sit down with his agent, they will come to a solution and they will find an agreement. Who knows? But right now, that cannot be a solution ever. Not once, not one time this season, the club can sit there and be like, you know what? Maybe we should be terminating Vlahovic's contract, pay him off, and basically say whatever. We go again. You cannot do that. And the only way that's not going to happen is if you make it very clear to Vlahovic that he's not part of the project anymore. And Vlahovic, and now I'm talking about his agent, should be talking to Vlahovic and saying, it's all good that you can leave on a free and maybe get a signing bonus, but these guys are not going to play you, and you cannot waste another year of your career. Like that's actually ridiculous, because at the end of the day, it's a different situation. Let's say Trent, he left on a free, but he played for Liverpool the entire season, basically. He played a lot of games and he was a key player, and then he left on a free. Vlahovic is not going to be a key player. He's not going to play a lot. So he's going to waste an entire year of his career for what? A little signing bonus? Because if you haven't played for a season and you're going to Inter, you're not getting a ridiculous signing bonus from Inter. And no club is going to, you're going to get signed on a free, but not to clubs of a certain level. If they know you haven't really played football in a year, yes, you're free, but they're not going to offer you what you think you can get right now at this moment in time. And I'm talking about contract wise as well. So the club needs to find a solution to it really quickly, because the termination of the contract is an absolute no-go. It cannot happen. It's a disaster. It's a big flop for the club as well. And just no, not an option. So let's see what's going to happen next Monday, or at the start of the week, they have been saying. And let's see what comes out of those talks, and then we can kind of move on in a good way or a bad way, depending on how you're looking at it. Really quickly, before we go to real transfer news, Jonathan David, he has been announced, but the interesting part is, remember when the agent talk was, oh, they want 30 million euros, and I was like, that makes no sense. No club is going to pay them 30 million euros. And if that actually was the case, then the club would have stepped down weeks ago, months ago, if there was no feeling that he was going to lower those demands. Now, apparently, Jonathan David told his agent, lower it because I want to go into Juve. So that's interesting. I know people are, losing their minds about he's not smiling. And he said, I think years back when I was watching football, I thought by myself, man, Juve must be, or should be a top club, or is up there with the top 10 clubs, and people are losing their minds, because back then we were a top club, 10 club, whatever, the point is, we paid 12 million and a half euros in agent fees. That's around what we paid, Aaron Ramsey, to be honest, as well. I look at it like this. People look at it and like, oh my God, that's not a free agent. You pay 12 and a half million euros to the agent and to Jonathan David for the signing bonus. I'm looking at it and I'm like, if that was a 12 and a half, million fee for David, nobody would have really a problem with it. It's cheap. Let's be honest, it's cheap in today's market. If it doesn't work, you didn't spend a lot of money, and it's payable in 3 years as well, So it's not all, here we go, off the books this season. It's over 3 seasons as well. That and three periods, Now, his wages are maybe a bit high. They're 5.5 plus 1.5 or plus 1 or something. So those are high. But that comes with signing free agents. Is as simple as that. Like that's how it works. If you're signing free agents, the wages are a bit higher than other players. Now, again, 12.5 million euros for a player who's has decent numbers, not the main guy. Obviously, that's where still talks, about Osimhen, because he's not a main guy, and you need a main guy, in my opinion. But 12.5 million euros is calm. I cannot really be mad about that. Do I wish the wages were a bit lower? Yes, because let's say worst case scenario, it doesn't work out. You will struggle to get those wages off the books, unless it's like, what, I accept the Saudi League, and the Saudi League still want him. But you didn't pay 50 million and those high wages. You know what it is? Even if it goes wrong on the books, it looks a bit different. Yes, the wages are ridiculous, but the hit is less. Obviously, you don't need to think about, oh, it's going wrong, because at that point, you're just making already bad deals to begin with. But just saying, it's 12.5 million euros. I think that's calm. You cannot really be mad about that, in my opinion. Now, before we wrap it up, Jadon Sancho, it's going all over the place again. Now there are talks about, other teams have not given up, blah, blah, blah. Apparently, according to the latest rumors, there's a 1 million euros difference between our offer in wages and what Jadon Sancho is asking. Is that a lot of money for this club? Yeah, it depends. If he's on 3 million euros, I'm just making it up, and he wants 4, it's not really a lot of money, I think, for the club. Is the club offering 6 or 7 and he's asking 8, then it becomes a lot of money for the club. So I don't know what the situation is. I don't know what he's asking for. I don't really know what the club is offering, because according to Italian, those sources, it's not 8, 9, 10 million euros. It's closer to 5, 6 million euros. So if the difference is 1 million euro, I think they will come to a solution, and that might be, if you want 1 million euros, I'm just making this up as well, and you want a 4-year deal, so that's 4 million euros, it's 8 million euros for the club. We're going to put that in signing bonuses, and maybe that's financially better for the club and for him as well, if you lower it a little bit and we, figure it out. So if it's 1 million euros, I don't think it's that insane for those to say, for them to say, what, we will find an agreement, or we will not find an agreement, excuse me. So we need to keep an eye on that. But even that, it feels like it will go to next week, where Komoli will sit down and make a decisive move for Sancho. Because again, we need to move on. Next week, it's already the second week of July. We need to move on. Time is ticking. We had the Club World Cup. We kind of took our time. Right now, there's no time to chill. It really needs to kick off for us. Outgoings and incomings, it need to kick off, because we start very early this season, in my opinion, again, because of the Club World Cup, and we need to be ready. So anyways, that's the update. Let me know in the comments what you think about that contract termination, because for me, that's an absolute flop financially and on every level. So let me know what you think about it. And yeah, we will talk about that in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will speak to you guys tomorrow.